He kicked me out for being gay. Now he wants my kidney. Guess what happened? Okay, Reddit, I need y'all to put on your emotional hazmat suits because we're about to wade into some toxic family sludge. I've been mentally marinating on this for weeks, and now that I'm finally typing it out, phew. It's messier than my Tinder inbox after 2 a.m. Let's set the scene. I'm 27 now, got a good job, live in a decent apartment with a clingy rescue cat and a boyfriend who makes me soup when I'm sad. I've clawed my way into stability like a raccoon with a dream. But rewind 9 years, and I was just a dumbass teenager in cargo shorts and a panic attack, standing in the middle of my childhood living room, about to nuke my relationship with my father forever. I was 18, graduation had just happened. I figured, hey, new chapter, right? Time to live my truth and stop hiding like some side character in my own damn life. So I came out, nothing dramatic, just me and my parents sitting at the kitchen table, drinking instant coffee like it was a normal Tuesday. I said the words, I'm gay, simple, honest, terrifying. My mom looked down at her mug like maybe she'd see a straight sun reflected in the Folgers. Dad? He went quiet, like, serial killer quiet. Then he just stood up, walked out of the room, and slammed the door behind him. I didn't even get yelled at. I didn't get a slur, a threat, a dramatic sermon. He just shut down. The next day, I came home from work, part-time job at a gas station, peak glamour, and my stuff was on the porch. 2 trash bags, my laptop, a note that said, "You're old enough to make your own choices. Good luck." That was it. No goodbye. No, I still love you. Just, good luck, like I was a contestant on some Hunger Games for queer kids. And I didn't go back. No calls, no holidays, no graduation party, no, how are you holding up, after my first panic attack in a Walmart parking lot. The dude didn't exist to me anymore, and apparently, I didn't exist to him either. My mom stayed with him, so by default, I lost her too. That was maybe the worst part. But like I said, I survived. Hustled, slept on couches, worked dumb jobs. At one point I lived in a storage unit behind a church that didn't even know I was there. Shout out to the janitor who never snitched. Eventually got into coding, took night classes, landed a solid job, moved out of the survival phase and into the maybe I can afford guac at Chipotle phase of life. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago. I get a phone call out of nowhere. Unknown number. Normally I ignore that kind of thing. 9 out of 10 times it's someone trying to sell me car insurance for a car I don't even have. But something told me to answer. And on the other end? My Aunt Lisa. Lisa always had my back when I was younger. She gave me her old iPod once and let me listen to inappropriate music like Lady Gaga and Panic at the disco. Real MVP vibes. So I picked up, expecting maybe a random catch-up. Instead, I get this heavy, quiet voice saying, "Your dad's sick." Real sick. I thought she was talking about like, a cold or something. I was already prepping my, "hope he feels better," voice. Nah, she meant like, dying. Kidney failure. One of his kidneys is shot, the other is barely functioning. He's on dialysis 3 times a week, and it's not going well. They're talking about a transplant. She tells me there's a donor match in the family. And guess who it is? Of course, me. Apparently they ran tests on immediate family members, and somehow, my info was in a system that flagged me as compatible. How? I still don't know. Probably some dusty old insurance thing from before the fallout. But that's not even the wildest part. He didn't even ask me himself. He didn't call, didn't text, didn't send a pigeon with an apology note. He told Lisa to reach out. Like I'm a damn customer service representative for spare organs. Like, hey, remember me? The guy who disowned you. Mind giving me a kidney real quick? My first reaction was honestly laughter. Like, full-on wheezing on my living room floor. Not because it's funny, because it's just so absurd. The man literally tossed me out into the street for being who I am, and now I'm supposed to crack open my ribcage and donate body parts. But then the guilt started creeping in. The old programming, he's still your dad, maybe this is his way of making amends. What if you don't help and he dies? That last one hit me. What if he dies? Would I regret it? Would it haunt me? So I told Lisa I needed time to think. That was a mistake. Because the second I didn't give an immediate yes, the manipulation faucet turned on full blast. I started getting messages from cousins I haven't heard from since 2013. Dude, it's his life. Don't be petty. He was raised in a different time. People change. You're not seriously going to let your dad die over a grudge, right? One even said, and I swear on Beyoncé's internet, it's not like he murdered you. He just didn't agree with your lifestyle. Excuse me? Didn't agree with me being gay? That's not forgetting to take your shoes off at the door. That's abandoning your own kid. I haven't given a final answer yet. Not officially, but in my heart, I already know what it is. So that's where I'm at. He needs a kidney. I'm the best match, but I'm also the same son he kicked out, ignored for nearly a decade, and never once reached out to. Not even now. You ever get so emotionally constipated that a ghost from your past calls you, and your first instinct is to laugh? Because that's exactly where I was when his name popped up on my screen. It had been 9 years. 9 years since I'd heard his voice. I didn't even have his number saved anymore, just a blank caller ID and this weird cold sweat crawling up my spine like my body knew who it was before my brain caught up. That kind of muscle memory you only get from people who broke you when you were still soft enough to bleed everywhere. And yet, I answered. I hate that I answered. Not because I regret hearing his voice, but because I wish I hadn't needed to. I wish the trauma didn't still have me on that leash. I wish I didn't still crave some kind of resolution from a man who once looked me in the face and decided I was less than his pride. The first thing he said, after 9 years of nothing, was, "I heard you might not do it." That's it, not even a, "Hello. No, I missed you," or, "I'm sorry," or, "How have you been, son?" Just that, like we were business associates. Like I owed him a damn organ for services rendered. I swear I laughed out loud. It wasn't a ha-ha funny laugh. It was one of those ugly, bitter, "are you shitting me?" kind of laughs that live in your chest and rot your insides if you don't let them out once in a while. I said, "You're really gonna open with that?" He said nothing, so I asked, "Do you even remember why we haven't spoken since I was 18? There was a pause. He breathed like it hurt to say what was coming next. Like he was the one carrying the wound. Then he said, "I was doing what I thought was right." And that was it. That's all I needed to hear to know he hadn't changed at all. Not even a little. In his mind, I was still the kid who needed to be taught a lesson. Still the gay disappointment he couldn't justify to his friends, his church, or whatever god he used to sleep at night. So I ended the call. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't tell him to go to hell, even though I wanted to. I just hung up and sat in silence, staring at nothing while my cat headbutted my leg like she knew I was dissociating. When Nate got home, my boyfriend, who deserves way better than this soap opera, I was sitting on the kitchen floor, halfway through a bag of shredded cheese and spiraling. He didn't ask questions. He just sat down beside me and let me talk. I told him about the call. About the voice. The lack of apology. The gall of a man who tossed me out and then came crawling back because his body's betraying him faster than he ever betrayed me. And somewhere in the middle of it, I heard myself say, "What if I'm wrong? What if I'm being cruel?" Nate didn't even hesitate. He looked me straight in the face and said, "You're not cruel. You're just finally not being used." And that broke me a little. Because yeah, I've been used. My whole damn life. Used to play the perfect son. Used to stay quiet. Used to absorb the shame. And now, apparently, used as a spare parts bin for a man who couldn't even say, "I love you," when I needed it most. The next day, I got 3 texts from Lisa. First one was normal, just checking in. Second one, heavier. "He's not doing well." Third one, a picture. It was him, lying in a hospital bed. Pale, sunken eyes, oxygen tube, the kind of image meant to break your heart, soften your spine, and guilt-trip you straight into a surgical gown. And it almost worked. I stared at that photo for way too long. Felt all the old instincts kick in. Those gross little loyalty strings you don't even know are still attached. I felt bad. I felt guilty. I felt like a son again. And I hated it. I didn't reply. Then came the real kicker. A message from my mom. She hadn't reached out in nearly a decade either. I figured she chose him over me and that was that. She never called, never texted, just disappeared from my life the moment he showed me the door. But now, she sends me this. "I know you hate us. But he's still your father. Please talk to me." I stared at that text like it was in a different language. It felt unreal, like I was watching someone else's family drama play out on TV. I almost didn't believe it was her. I didn't respond right away. I didn't know what to say. I felt like I'd swallowed a box of thumbtacks and my heart was trying to cough them back up. And just as I was convincing myself to delete the message, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a voicemail. From her. She sounded different, older, like life had worn her down the same way it had worn down everyone else in this story. Her voice shook, not crying, but close. There's things you don't know. Things I should have told you years ago. Please, just call me, before it's too late. And just like that, I knew this wasn't just about kidneys anymore. This was about history, about secrets, about the kind of things families bury so deep that nobody ever digs them up until someone's on their deathbed and suddenly everyone wants to play truth or dare with trauma. I didn't call her back. Not yet. I needed to breathe, to think, to not spiral, but something in me shifted. Not forgiveness, not closure, just curiosity. And we all know what curiosity did to the cat. It was a Tuesday. I remember that because Tuesdays are when everything awful seems to happen. Tuesdays are when people ghost you, when your ex posts a happy couple photo 24 hours after you break up, when your job, accidentally, forgets to send your paycheck. And now, apparently, Tuesdays are when your mother crawls out of the grave of your childhood silence and decides to speak. I didn't answer her voice message right away. I didn't even listen to the whole thing the first time. I just stared at the play button like it was gonna explode. There's something about hearing a voice you haven't heard in almost a decade that hits weird. You want it, but you also know it's gonna hurt. Eventually, I hit play. She sounded scared, not panicked, not crying, just scared in the way people get when they've kept something buried for too long and it's finally clawing its way to the surface. There's things I should have told you. I didn't because I was scared. Not of you, of him. That part hit like a punch. Of him, not your father, just him. Then she said, please, if you have any love left for me at all, just talk to me. Now listen, that's some heavy manipulative shit. Guilt wrapped in motherly concern type stuff. But the thing is, I do still love her. That's the worst part. No matter how far she vanished, no matter how quiet she went when I needed her the most, some broken, dumbass piece of me still saw her as Mom. So I called her back. It took her 2 rings to answer, and when she did, she gasped like she thought I'd never call again. I stayed quiet. She said my name. I still didn't say anything. Then she said it again, softer. Like she was afraid I'd hang up if she breathed too loud. And then she said something I wasn't ready for. I wanted to leave him. I was going to take you and leave, the night you told us. I think I stopped breathing. She started talking fast, like if she didn't get it out all at once, she'd choke on it. Said she'd packed a bag. Had a friend waiting. Said she saw the way he looked at me after I came out, like I was diseased, like he didn't recognize me. Said she knew he was going to do something drastic, so she planned to take me somewhere safe. Then she said, but he threatened me. At first I thought she meant, like, yelling. Typical toxic dad tantrum. Nope, she meant actual threats. Like, serious shit. He told her if she took me, he'd ruin her. Said he'd make sure no one would ever believe her. He had dirt, proof of things that would cost her her job, her family, maybe even custody. He said he'd tell people I was unstable, that I was abusing pills, that I hit you, which, by the way, she didn't. Ever. She was the soft one. The quiet warmth in a house that was always cold and loud. The one who snuck me chocolate at night when he said I was getting too soft. She told me she stayed because she thought it was the only way to protect me from worse. I know I failed you, she said. I failed you in every way. That broke me, because I'd spent years turning her into a villain in my head. It was easier that way. Easier to hate her than to admit she left me behind because she was terrified and trapped and didn't know how to fight a man who controlled everything around him like a game of chess. And suddenly the whole thing felt different. Not better, not fixed, just different. She started crying. I could hear it in her voice, that ugly crying where your words hitch in your throat and your whole chest caves in. I didn't cry. I just sat there, phone pressed to my face, listening to the woman I'd spent almost a decade resenting beg for forgiveness between sobs. And I didn't know what to say. Then she said this. I'm telling you now because there's more. There's something else, something you never knew. And I swear to God, my whole body went cold. Like every cell in me went on high alert. She hesitated, then said, he's not just asking you for your kidney. He's asking because you're the only one who can give it. Because you're the only biological match. I told her, yeah, I know. Aunt Lisa already explained that. But then she went quiet. Dead silent. For too long. And when she spoke again, her voice broke. He's not your biological father. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I think my brain literally short-circuited. You know that feeling when the ground falls out from under you, but you're just sitting still? Like vertigo without movement? Yeah, that. She kept talking. I barely heard her. She said he knew. Always knew. Said he found out when I was a toddler and decided to raise me anyway. Said he married her knowing I wasn't his. But then when I came out, when I stopped being the picture-perfect son, he stopped pretending. He used it against me. Said I let another man infect his bloodline. That phrase, infect his bloodline, it made me nauseous. She begged me to understand. That she never meant to lie. That she just wanted to keep the family together. That she thought love would be enough. And I just sat there. Shaking, silent, holding a phone like it was a weapon. Because everything I thought I knew about why he hated me, why he threw me out, why he refused to acknowledge me as his son, it all clicked. Not because I was gay. But because I was never his. And now he needs me, his non-son, his throwaway, his last chance at survival. And maybe, just maybe, he doesn't deserve it. I didn't go immediately. After that call with my mom, after the bomb she dropped, after hearing the words, "He's not your biological father," I just sat in my apartment for 2 days, fully dissociated from the planet. I didn't eat real food. Just lived off dry cereal and anxiety. Didn't respond to Nate. Didn't answer Lisa's texts, just stared at the wall and kept asking myself one thing, over and over again. What am I supposed to feel right now? Because seriously, how do you process all of that? How do you even begin to wrap your head around the idea that the man who raised you, hurt you, rejected you, was never really your father at all? I felt like my entire childhood had been shoved through a paper shredder. I thought about all the things I did to try and get his approval growing up. Every time I faked being tougher, straighter, colder, just to get a nod of approval. Every time I pushed down parts of myself just to be his version of a son. And none of it would have ever been enough. Because it was never really about who I was, just who I wasn't. Eventually, something inside me just snapped. Not in a dramatic, movie moment way. Just quiet, solid, final. I stood up, took a shower, put on clean clothes, and told Nate, I'm going. He didn't ask where. He already knew. The hospital looked like all hospitals do. Dead plants, beige walls, and that sterile, metallic smell that makes you feel like hope is just another thing that gets recycled through the vents. Lisa met me outside the room. She hugged me tight, too tight. Her voice cracked when she said, "Thank you for coming." I didn't answer. I couldn't. I was too busy bracing myself for what I was about to see. What I was about to decide. I walked into that room and saw a stranger in my father's bed. He looked small, not just physically, though he had clearly lost weight. He looked diminished, like something had been leaking out of him slowly for years, and this was just the final, empty shell. He looked at me, and I could see in his eyes that he didn't expect me to come. Maybe part of him hoped I wouldn't. Maybe part of him was scared I would. For a long time, neither of us said a word. I sat in the chair next to his bed. My heart was pounding, but my face? Stone cold. I didn't flinch. I didn't blink. I just looked. Then he said, in the weakest voice I've ever heard, "You know, don't you?" I nodded once. He stared at the ceiling. "Your mother." I told her to never say anything. I could have screamed right then. But I didn't. I wanted him to say more. I needed to know what level of twisted his reasoning had gone to. He said he found out when I was 2. That he'd suspected for a while, but got confirmation. That he almost left, but didn't. I stayed because I loved her. And I tried to love you. I really did. Tried. Like I was some obligation. A task. An emotional group project he got stuck with. He told me he thought he could get past it. That if he just pretended hard enough, the blood part wouldn't matter. But then, you came out. And it just broke everything. And there it was. The mask dropped. The truth. He couldn't handle me being gay and not being his. That combo made it easy for him to cut me loose. Made it justified in his mind. He said, "I felt betrayed by both of you." I looked at him and asked, "And how did I betray you, exactly?" "By being born?" He didn't answer. So I kept going. I told him about the nights I slept in my car. About the time I got pneumonia and still had to work through it because I couldn't afford to see a doctor. I told him about sitting in therapy for years, trying to unlearn the self-hatred that he installed in me like a virus. And then I said this: "You didn't ruin my life. You just made it harder. But I built something out of it anyway. Without you." He turned away from me. Maybe it was guilt, maybe it was shame, or maybe it was just the first time in his life someone talked to him without fear. He said, "I don't expect forgiveness." I replied, "Good, because I'm not here to give it." I stood up. He looked back at me. "I know it's selfish to ask. I know I don't deserve it. But I hoped." That word, hoped, that word pissed me off more than anything else. Because hope is for people who try, who earn it, who show up, and he never did. So I looked him in the eyes and gave him my final answer. "I'm not giving you my kidney. Not because I want revenge. Not because I hate you. But because I finally love myself more than I fear you." Then I walked out of that room, out of that hospital, and didn't look back. Not once. A week later, Lisa texted me. He was gone. No dramatic ending, no final phone call, no last-minute confessional moment of clarity. Just a flatline. I didn't cry. I didn't feel much of anything. I sat on the floor with my cat in my lap, looked out the window, and realized something I probably should have known years ago. I'd already grieved this man. When I stood on that porch at 18 with a garbage bag full of clothes, that's when I lost him. That was his death, not the hospital bed. What happened last week, that was just a formality. So now I'm here, 27, still gay, still healing, still trying to figure out how to live in a world where people like him exist, and still choosing to love anyway. Reddit, Aita for saying no? Or did I finally give the right person what they needed? Me.